Thank you, John Hager. Mary Sue Terry is the first and the only woman elected to statewide office in Virginia. With her election as Attorney General in 1985, leading the statewide ticket, she became only the second woman in U.S. history to serve as Attorney General. When she was reelected in 1989, she again led the ticket and became the first candidate in Virginia history to receive more than 1 million votes. During her tenure as Attorney General, her office successfully proposed more than 80 different measures before the Virginia General Assembly. Since she was elected president of the National Association of Attorneys General and received the Wyman Award for their distinguished service after leaving office. Please give a warm welcome to Mary Sue Terry.
Thank you, Bob, and friends and fellow Virginians. I am so honored to be offered this opportunity to speak as one of the few living elected attorneys general on the Democratic side of the spectrum. Andy Miller and I continue to hold forth, and maybe over time things will change a bit. But my time in Richmond was wonderful, and it's good to be back. It's particularly good to see those of you who supported and contributed to my campaigns, particularly the last campaign. And for those of you who did not see fit in that last campaign to contribute or support, you don't know what you missed, which is probably the reason you didn't vote for me. I'd like to say a special word about Bill Wood. I knew him when he still was with the Virginian Pilot. And everything that's been said earlier, I would simply echo. He had a wonderful smile, a quick wit. He had an outlook on life that gave hope in life to other people. He was the midwife of this organization under the leadership and stewardship of my friend Lee Milditch, and he led it for as long as he could. I've been given the topic, and we've been given the topic, trust, civility, and respect in politics. I've just finished reading John Meacham's remarkable book, Thomas Jefferson, The Art of Power. And I was reminded once again that Thomas Jefferson believed, as part of his Enlightenment philosophy, that there would always be advancement so long as there was always knowledge and an accumulation and dissemination of knowledge among the colonies and knowledge that we see, observe, and appreciate today. Jefferson's view of knowledge might be metaphorically represented by the term light. During his time and the time that followed with Lincoln in the 19th century, Americans read by a lantern. When the 20th century emerged, Thomas Edison, with the commercial help of Westinghouse, developed the ubiquitous light bulb. And it was during that time that John D. Rockefeller, Cornelius Vanderbilt, Henry Ford, J.P. Morgan, and others began to change the face of this country. And it's been changing ever since. The advances that we have enjoyed as a result of hard work, ingenuity, and creativity and entrepreneurship in our free enterprise system has been the envy of the world. But it seems to me that we have one problem. and that is light, knowledge, which comes to us from the bulbs we read by and from the screens we watch, whether they be computer screens or television screens, has not advanced our ability to govern. Indeed, there's been scarcely a time in American history where our government has been more dysfunctional than today, where light streaming in from televisions and computers via the internet illumines untruth as much as truth. I'm reminded of the biblical adage, it rains on the just and the unjust. And what comes up on the screen projects the truth and untruth. What's most troubling to me is that it's taken a toll on our political institutions. If those who gathered in Philadelphia at great personal sacrifice were silent witnesses today, what would they think? These were men of vision, who had a vision of a unified country, and they put that vision ahead of their parochial interests by compromising, big-time compromising. Abraham Lincoln went to war to preserve the unity of this country. I know that some of you perhaps are all thinking I'm showing my Democratic colors, but please stick with me to the end. I've been honored over the years, first by Bill and most recently by Bob, to share an evening with Sorensen Fellows. The first one I shared was 20 years ago when Emily Couric was in that class. On every occasion, I have asked this question. Can you think, if and when you run for office, can you think of anything that you would not do to win an election? The room becomes pretty silent when I ask that question. I get very few responses. So let me ask you a question. Can you think of anything you would not want the candidate you support to do to win his or her election? Can you think of anything you would not want the candidate you support to do in order to win an election? Let me suggest to you that if the answer to that question is no, then our conversations about trust, civility, and respect in politics is an academic exercise. Because you folks are voters, you're contributors, you're opinion makers. Anyone running for office in Virginia would come to your door. Can you think of anything that you would not want a candidate you support to do to win an election? Sadly, if the answer to the question is no, as I said earlier, we will continue to have politics as usual. Years ago, when my friend Chuck Robb was running for governor, there was a group of individuals who were known collectively as Virginians For. The group was powerful. Their imprimatur was priceless, precisely because they were not sold out to any party. They wanted leaders of character, they wanted leaders they could trust, and they wanted leaders willing to make tough decisions. When Goethe, a man of great learning, died in the early 19th century, history records that in his last act, he raised up in the bed and he said, "Light, light, more light. Light for him symbolizing knowledge." Unamuno, a A Spanish philosopher, a century later, said, despite the fact that Goethe was one of the most learned men who ever lived, when he died, he asked for the wrong thing. Instead of asking for light, light, more light, he should have asked for warmth, warmth, more warmth. Man dies not of darkness, but the cold. Fundamentally, we're human beings. We live in a wonderful state. Can you envision a way to help these Sorensen graduates go out from their hothouse environment into a political climate that's more inviting? You have educated and invested so that they can become better policymakers. But the question you asked tonight is, what about politics and getting there? They need your help. The Commonwealth needs your help. I think the answer to the question, is there anything we would not want a candidate to do in order to win an election, has answers. I think it has answers. And I suspect the folks in this room can take this process to the next level. Thank you very much.